Your period is late, you do not know where it is, you're wondering if you are pregnant, if you have a hormone issue. Let's cover the top reasons why your period is late. Then we're going to cover what you can do to never be surprised by your period again. Just a quick disclaimer, I am not a doctor, this is not medical advice, this is for educational purposes only. If you have any questions or concerns, please go to your doctor. So obviously, I have to preface by saying test for pregnancy. That's like the number one thing to do. If there's any indicator that you possibly could be pregnant, once you miss your period, you are in that safe area where you can start to test. If you are worried about false negatives, just test a week after your missed period, and then that should tell you whether you are pregnant or not. So the main reason why your period is probably late is due to stress. If your body does not feel safe and it is stressed out due to various different reasons, you are not going to ovulate. Now, if you do not ovulate, which is the release of the egg from your ovaries into your fallopian tube, you will not get a period. If you do get some form of bleed, it's actually not your true period, but it can be a withdrawal bleed or a breakthrough bleed, which can occur due to rapid hormone shifts, or your uterine lining has built up so much because of the delay in ovulation that it has started to shed. There's only two reasons why your period is not there. Either you're pregnant or you had late ovulation or no ovulation. There's no other reason. So if you do not ovulate, your period is not going to come, or if you ovulate later, you're going to get your period later. So that's the main reason. So stress can push ovulation, therefore delaying your period. Now, this stress could be physical stress, mental stress, perhaps you're sick, you got food poisoning, you were injured, you had a fight with your parents, with your boyfriend, with your partner, with your kids, whatever. All of this stress could potentially delay ovulation. Now, really, this depends on your body. Some people are more sensitive to this than others. Your body is not getting enough calories that it needs. You might be working out too much. Travel is another reason why your period can be delayed. If you go on vacation, you might have noticed that it gets kind of weird. You might see some spotting, you might skip it altogether, or you even get it early. Changing time zones, not getting enough sleep, starting a new job, exams in school, all of these things can contribute to pushing ovulation, therefore delaying your period. So if we're talking hormone issues, PCOS is a huge one. About 1 in 10 women have PCOS, and we think it's actually higher now. And that could be due to lifestyle and diet habits, or just more people are becoming aware of it and they're being diagnosed. There are different types of PCOS, so I do cover the 4 different types of PCOS in another video, which you can find right here. Having a regular period is very, very important for your long-term health. If you do not want to work on your diet and lifestyle to regulate your period, then I would hop on birth control, because you don't want to go too long without having a period, because that can put you at higher risk. So I would talk to your doctor about that. Another hormone issue where you can see missed periods, irregular cycles. Most of the time you are seeing really, really long cycles. So maybe you only get 2 periods a year, it's really light, or you just have no period at all. That could be related to hypothalamic amenorrhea, where your hormones are basically so low that you are not making enough to even grow the egg to even ovulate. See, in PCOS, you are still making those hormones. You can still see cervical mucus throughout your cycle. There's just some interference with how those hormones are operating. Basically, it's just pushing ovulation, whereas hypothalamic amenorrhea, we are not making enough hormones to even do the job. It typically occurs because your body is not getting what it needs. So often you can see this in eating disorders. You're not getting enough calories for your body's demand. You're working out too much. You can see this in athletes, and really low body fat. If you're around the age of 35, you could be creeping up into perimenopause. That's still pretty early, but it can happen and you can see some hormone shifts. So if you start getting an irregular cycle, a lot of times we can help this with diet and lifestyle, and that's what sometimes is like the main contributor. And I can go over that in another video. And then also, if you were postpartum, you just worked really, really hard to make that baby. It took a lot of your minerals, your vitamins, your energy. So making sure that we are replenishing postpartum and then trying to get as much rest as possible. I know it's not really possible, but as time continues, you'll kind of build a better schedule, and then that can help you regain a healthy period. But if you are breastfeeding, this is going to delay your cycle as well. So if you are breastfeeding on demand and pretty frequently, that's going to delay your cycle even more. Although I would pay attention to any cervical mucus patterns that you are seeing. That can indicate that the FSH has been released from your brain, starting to grow that follicle, and then ovulation might be imminent. So if you are not breastfeeding, you can see return to your cycle quicker. Another one that's not really talked about so often is when you are younger. So if you recently got your period, you're in your teen years, you haven't had it for that long, it can take a while for your cycle to regulate. So it's not super abnormal if you see irregular cycles. And some people think irregular cycles are like, oh, well, my period was 29 days this cycle, and then now it's 31 days. That's not really that far off. I wouldn't call that an irregular cycle. It doesn't have to be exactly the same day every single cycle. You will see some differences at least once throughout the year. Again, due to various things, likely stress, maybe you were sick. But again, if you were in those teenage years, I'm not surprised that you see a little bit of irregularity. If it is like a really irregular, or you have any other accompanying symptoms like really heavy bleeding or like barely any bleeding, other symptoms like that, please go to your doctor and get that checked out. They may prescribe you birth control, or they may ask you if you'd like to go on it. If you'd like to go on it, that is great. If you do not want to go on it and they are kind of pushing it on you, it's good to know that your cycles likely will regulate over time unless you have different like hormonal issues, which they will check out for you. If they say you have PCOS and you've been diagnosed with that, you can treat that with diet and lifestyle, so you do not have to go on the pill. So that's also your choice. Your cycle can take around 6 years-ish to kind of get regular. Most people see their cycle regulate after about the first 2 years, but it can take a little bit longer. So those are the main reasons why your period is late. Let's talk about what you can do to never be surprised by your period or never be shocked that like it is late. So basically, this is going to be cycle tracking, and you might have heard of cycle tracking before, but you might just be using your app and tracking your period, where this goes a little bit more intense. But I promise you, it is easy. There's a bit of a learning curve at the beginning, but it's really not that hard. So what you're going to do is start tracking your cervical mucus. By tracking your cervical mucus, this is going to show you that your body is working up to ovulation. So it represents estrogen in your body. So the main hormone, FSH, from your brain is being released. It is telling your ovaries to start growing those eggs. One will become dominant and then make an increasing amount of estrogen. When this increasing amount of estrogen occurs in your body will make an increasing amount of cervical mucus. So once you notice that, you notice you're a bit more wet, you're seeing the slippery, clear cervical mucus. Some people like to say the egg white cervical mucus. It can also be milky or just plain like watery. That can represent that you have high estrogen and you're working up to ovulation. Now, once you see that shift from high mucus to dry, that can help you confirm that ovulation has likely taken place. Now, how we actually confirm this is taking your basal body temperature. So either you can use a device like I do, like the Oura Ring or the Apple Watch, or the Temp Drop is really good as well to track your basal body temperature, or you can use a thermometer. So you take that in the morning, and I'll have a different video going over all of this as well. And what you're looking for is a rise in temperature. So before ovulation, your temperatures are going to be lower. Once you ovulate, that increase in progesterone that your body is making post-ovulation is going to raise your temperature a little bit. And that's something that you can notice. And therefore, with cross-checking your cervical mucus, you will know when you ovulate. So if you haven't seen that increase in temperature, maybe you haven't seen any cervical mucus yet, and your period is late, then you'll know, I didn't ovulate, therefore I shouldn't be shocked if my period is late because I haven't ovulated yet. And therefore you cannot be pregnant because you haven't ovulated yet. If you are tracking your cycle and you notice that you ovulate later than normal, you will know that your period will be later than normal. So you won't be shocked when it's actually late. Therefore, that saves you the headache, the stress, and the anxiety, but the fact that you might be pregnant and you don't want to be. It also makes it 10 times easier for pregnancy planning, because then you'll know the exact time that you should have intercourse to get pregnant, and then you'll know how many days you are post-ovulation. Again, I will post more videos about exactly how to do that, but if you enjoyed this one, please give it a thumbs up. If you have any questions, put them down below, and if not, I'll see you in the next one.